Director of Roads and Transportation with Donegal County Council, and is with us now. Good morning to you, Brian. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, good morning, Greg, to you and to your listeners.
Right, okay. I think it was clear, wasn't it, in the days leading up to yesterday that this was going to be a proper storm, a proper sort of red alert, and it turned out that way, didn't it?
Absolutely, Greg. And one thing in particular too is that even in advance of the red warning coming into effect at 9 p.m. yesterday evening, there was still a large impact right across the county, both from a surface water flooding perspective earlier in the afternoon, and then right through to quite a lot of trees down in the period from 6 o'clock right through to 9 o'clock yesterday evening.
And what exactly, how extensive is the damage? Is it easy to say?
Right across the county, Greg. I've lost track of the number of map alerter notices we've issued in relation to trees down. It was 38 about an hour ago. It's probably over 50 now at this stage, and that's the ones that notifications gone out on. I'm sure there's plenty of back roads that still have trees on them that we haven't got to or haven't been informed yet by the locals. But right across the road network. But some of it was dealt with yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening in advance of the red alert coming into effect. At that point, our crews would have went back home because it just wasn't safe to be out during the red alert, and then they remobilised again this morning and have cleared quite a lot of the main and priority routes and are working their way down through the other roads in order to make them passable. But right across the network, right across from Isha down to South Donegal, out to West Donegal, down the Finn and Deal valleys and in and around Letterkenny in particular.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, the work of your team's complicated by the fact that sometimes there could be power lines involved or what have you. So having to liaise, I presume, quite a bit with the ESB, etc.
Absolutely, and we know that their teams have been out on the ground from early as well, and working with our crews generally on a priority basis, and that's one of the, I suppose, the real hazards when it comes to storm recovery, and in particular why it isn't really safe to be out through the hours of darkness unless there's a threat to life in relation to an issue, because you never know when you're approaching a tree if there's a power line entangled in that tree, and it really presents a real hazard to life, both of workers or a member of the public. So we would advise members of the public just not to try and take these jobs on themselves, just in case of the hidden hazards out there, and let the council and the ESB crews etc. to clear these issues.
Yeah, because as far as I'm aware at this point, we seem to have avoided serious injury in the northwest, certainly in Donegal, and we just want it to remain that way, don't we, Brian?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we're hearing of some tragic incidents further down the country. But in Donegal, we've been lucky, touch wood. But one of the things, I suppose, Greg, for your listeners, is that we've got further yellow wind warnings, one in effect today from up until 7 p.m, and then tomorrow from noon right through until 5 a.m. on Wednesday morning is a further yellow wind warning. And I know we tend to seem to get yellow warnings on a very, very regular basis, but in particular after this storm, there may be trees that may not have fallen during this event, but may well be loosened as part of it, and it might just take this yellow wind warning. So again, we'll be on standby for further trees to come down over the coming days, and again, just for householders, I suppose, and looking around their own properties, and farmers and other landowners on their properties where there may be trees adjoining the road network, is to take a look around, check if there is any noticeable damage, any noticeable change in those locations, and maybe some action now might prevent a tragedy down the line. Yeah,
really important point you make there, Brian, because of course even just a subtle change in wind direction could be enough to dislodge something that's just hanging there by the edge of its roots. So Brian, just to recap then, teams have been out as soon as it was safe to do so. Everyone has a different definition, I suppose, of main roads and what have you, but as best as we can determine this, Brian, the main roads or the main routes, I think that's how you describe them, are clear, work ongoing to clear up and tidy up and make safe other stuff around the region.
Yeah, I suppose the main routes was route that was trees down across our national primary and our national secondary network. Generally, they have been removed and roads would be open. The largest ongoing impact that I'm seeing at the moment is the Ramelton Road out of Letterkenny, past Arena 7, heading towards Tara Court direction. There was multiple trees down just on that stretch of road. There's diversions in place since yesterday evening, and it's likely that road will remain closed into the afternoon, into after 2 p.m. at least. We've got Aircom and the ESB lines as part of that, and we know we've got their crews responding to assist in getting them obstacles moved.
Look, this is a once-off, but I suppose we have to prepare for once-off. Is there any argument at all, Brian, or maybe this is not really in your remit, that maybe to do an audit of what's along our roads, whether that's the responsibility of landowners or the council? As I say, it's not about attributing blame or anything like that, Brian, but I just wonder if the various agencies, be it ESB, Aircom, anyone that's sort of involved in this side of things, if we need to be working a bit closer together to see if we need to be preemptive in terms of taking trees down. Yeah,
it's a good point, Greg, and I suppose from every incident, one of the most important parts is what is the learning to take from it, and then whether that indicates there are preventative actions going forward. When it comes to trees along the roadside in particular, the department has published a guidance note for landowners about checking their trees on a regular basis, because trees can change. They can be impacted by storms, but also they can be impacted by disease, etc. And that landowners with trees along the public road should be checking them maybe once or twice a year just for any noticeable change. And I suppose that's one of the points. But in relation to liaison with other of our colleagues in the utilities, etc., it's a valid point. Unfortunately, I suppose the alongside roads tend to be corridors for services as well, and when the two intermingle with the trees, it might be part of the hedgerow, etc. It can lead to issues like this, but it's definitely a good point, well made, Greg.
All right, Brian, listen, thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it, and hopefully all your crews, they're out there doing brilliant work, and I'm sure they'll all return home safely, given the training and skill sets they have, but we wish them well nonetheless. And again, a big shout out to the ESB crews out there as well. Anyone involved in getting our infrastructure back up and running, of course, we ourselves have had issues with transmission masts and power, and we've got people working to keep us on air, and we appreciate them doing so. But also, as I say, there's an awful lot of stuff to be fixed over a period of time. I'm just going to give you the Vision Ireland Radio Bingo numbers. We're catching up a little bit. I know this is not the most important thing, but it is quite important to some people out there. So just to give you the Vision Ireland Radio Bingo numbers, we're playing on a green coloured sheet. The reference number is S16 and it's game number 4. The numbers are 7, 51, 81, 27, 19, 15, 55, 41, 45 and 73. I'll give you those numbers again in a moment. If you wish to claim for today's prize, leave your name and contact number before 8 p.m. this evening. We'll call you back the next working day. You call us on 07491 25,000. So those numbers once again. I'm being a DJ today. I'm doing the bingo. It's all hands on decks, folks. 7, 51, 81, 27, 19, 15, 55, 41, 45 and 73. So good luck if you're playing the bingo today and supporting Vision Ireland in the process. Okay, you are tuned to the 9 till noon show. It is a little bit up in the air at the moment as we get everything sorted here. Everyone affected, as I mentioned a little earlier on, by the storms. A thank you coming in from a listener. I'm from Calais. I was walking across the road in the bad weather. I was going to the chapel. A lovely young man helped me cross the road. There was a group of about 6 of them, and they were just so lovely. It made my day. They told me that if it was their own granny, that they'd want someone to help her. It just melted my heart. I'm an older lady, and it made me feel less alone. I'd just like you to highlight this and say a big thank you to those boys. People always give out about the young people, but there are still good ones out there, no doubt about it. So, all right, let's go to Aaron Quinn. Good morning, Aaron.
Hi, Gray. How are you?
I'm okay. You are in Edinburgh, and you were caught up travelling in storm. In this storm. So tell us, where did you leave from, what time, and then what happened to you?
Yeah, so the story is we left Cyprus, just a few of my friends. We had a flight booked for 12:30. So we were in the plane by 12:30 in Cyprus time. It'd be 10 a.m. in Irish time. But so we took off anyway. There was no problem. But then I think it was just an hour left into the flight. A few of us started to notice that we were kind of going the wrong way, but there was nothing said yet. But then I think it was a wee bit before we made a descent anyway that we were told that we would not be landing into Dublin. We'd be landing into Edinburgh for the night.
Mm-hmm. And what was the flight itself like? Was it disruptive? Was it okay? Was it, could you get a sense of the weather?
Yeah, it wasn't great. No, it wasn't great now. We had a very, very rocky landing. I just want to say well done to the pilot for that, because it was a very, very shaky landing. But no, we got down no problem. But the problem wasn't getting down. It was getting out of the plane.
How long were we on board for?
We were on board since we landed at 5, and we didn't get out the plane till before 8 o'clock.
My word, that's a long sit.
Mm-hmm.
Was food and water okay, or what was the story there?
No, you still had to pay for food, but I think it was after 2 hours anyway, they started to hand out limited water bottles.
Right, for free. And what about getting home? Now, what's the story?
So the story is now that so they've issued you with flights anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There's a flight for this evening, but there was 3 of my friends who wanted to get an earlier flight, but the flight was registered. The flight was for 9:30. Yeah, but they didn't get their flight now till 10:30 because there was no crew and no pilot for the flight.
My word. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
so they issued us with flights for this evening, but for accommodation, it was a free-for-all.
All right, okay. Listen, hopefully you get home safe, Aaron. Listen, thank you very much for your time. We're going now to Siobhan Wynne, I beg your pardon, Siobhan, if I've got your surname incorrect, Regional Manager with Central Region at ESB Networks. Good morning to you. How are you keeping?
Good morning. We're good, thank you.
I'm looking here at the map of Ireland, and I can't recall ever seeing so many outages that you and your crews are having to deal with. What is the situation, I suppose, nationwide, Siobhan, at this point?
So the situation at the moment is that we have just over 190,000 customers without power. The northwest obviously has been the worst affected. So that's mainly Donegal, Sligo, Roscommon, Galway, and parts of South Kerry have been affected. But as you said, the whole country has been impacted by the storm. So we have power outages across the country at this stage.
Yeah, and when you look at Mappa Donegal, and you sort of know the areas that aren't populated, pretty much there seems to be faults in everywhere. There is a population.
There is, yes. So yes, all parts, particularly now of Donegal, have been impacted by the storm. We do have crews out though, so with crews out since first light this morning, they're out assessing the damage on the ground, and they're making safe any emergency or safety issues on site. And as the day progresses, then we'll be restoring power to as many people as we can over the course of the day. So we would say just to your customers, because I know people are now out and about this morning, if you're out walking or you come across a line on the ground or a conductor, just, as usual, make sure that you stay well clear. But please contact us and register the fault on our powercheck.ie site, or alternatively, if it's an emergency and you think there's a danger there, please call us on our emergency number at 1-800 372 999.
And in terms of getting the network back up and running, some of it, is it, being out in the ground? Is there some sort of, networking rerouting that can be done as well to try and fix issues, or are the problems so extensive with the actual infrastructure that that's more complicated?
It's a combination of both. So yes, the first point of call is to resectionalise the network and to feed, if we can, in an alternative arrangement. So that's what we do first of all, and we can do that from our control centre. But then in addition to that, then as we've been out this morning assessing the damage, there is quite extensive damage to the network. So there are cases when you just can't do that. We have a large number of poles now, broken poles on the network and trees on our lines. So there will be, a large restoration effort and repair effort required.
Have we seen anything of this scale in recent memory?
Not in the last, I suppose, year or two.
Yeah.
I suppose everybody remembers Storm Ophelia and Storm Darwin, but they're a number of years ago at this stage. So, yeah, this is the most significant storm that we would have had in recent memory.
And in terms of the manpower, in inverted commas, how many teams, men and women, I'm sure, do you have out in Donegal? I mean, you could never have enough staff, could you, on standby to be able to send them out to so many different places?
No, we have everybody out on site this morning. So all of our network technicians have been deployed across the country. Now, in addition to that, we do have access to contracting resources with our partners. So we've called them in also, and they've been deployed to the worst affected areas. So primarily they've been deployed to the northwest to assist with the effort there.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously everyone wants to know, and I think you sort of put out a blanket 6 p.m. Monday on the PowerCheck website, which I would say had enormous traffic over the last while. Is there any sort of hope as to when you'll have the majority back with power?
I would say, overnight we had 230,000 customers without power, so that is a really significant number of customers. So realistically, we are looking at a multi-day event here. We will obviously try to get as many people back tonight, but inevitably there will be customers out without power tomorrow and possibly for another day after that again.
All right, okay. Well, listen, hopefully everyone stays safe out there. Do not approach any fallen electricity infrastructure, or don't believe it to be a telephone line or whatever. You call the ESB. That's the tip. That's the advice you want to give people.
Absolutely. Listen, that's the most important point. And powercheck.ie is kept constantly up to date. So if you're looking for updates there, that's the best place to go.
Okay, listen, thank you very much for your time. I know you're all very busy. Right, we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back with our next guest just after these.
Around how we use electricity at home is more important than ever. And if the first change is a switch to a Flowgas smart meter tariff, you're off to a great start. With smart energy decisions, like avoiding peak usage hours between 5 and 7 p.m, the savings can make it really worthwhile. I'm Aoibhinn Garrahy, and I'm changing my habits. See how I get on and discover more useful tips at flowgas.ie. Flowgas. Energy for everyone. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, that was as much to check that everything is working as it should be, and indeed it is. We'll have a full news update for you at 11 o'clock and the obituary notices as well, so stay tuned for that. Clodagh with me now. Clodagh, sorry for holding you there. Good morning to you.
Morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing okay. You're living at the mountaintop here in Letterkenny, and a real sense of a lucky escape through the storms last night.
Absolutely, yeah. We had a 90-foot tree come down through the garage last night and destroy it. Yeah, so feel very lucky that nobody was in the garage at the time. So, yeah, absolutely.
And this is a garage attached to a house. It's like a private garage, isn't it, Clodagh?
It's just behind the house. Behind the house. Yeah, yeah.
What did you hear? What did you hear as it was happening?
Nothing. We didn't actually hear it. Thanks to double glazing, we were actually just getting into our bed. One of the kids was quite upset with the wind and everything, and we were just getting into bed. And our neighbour, who has CCTV, rang us and said, "Your tree is down." And we ran out, and yeah, surely the tree had come down through the garage, and trampoline and everything is destroyed. But like I say, look, at least nobody has been hurt, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, indeed. But still, in the back of your head, you're like, well, thank God. It could have been very, very different.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I suppose the thing is that we've moved here 3 years ago, and we've 3 very big trees at the back of the house here. And at the last storm, one of them came down, just narrowly missed the ESB line when it did, and we called out the ESB at the time and said, "Look, this is an accident waiting to happen. There's 2 more trees here which are going to come down in the next storm." And we had them out 3 different occasions, and they refused to do anything about it. And now the line is down, the fibre is gone, and our garage is gone. So
we're just looking at the picture you sent in here too. It's a significant garage. You know what I mean. Just in case, it's hard to sometimes imagine it, but that could be a granny flat type of a building as well. It's a significant part of the building.
Very big garage.
And those trees, that tree that came down, I think they're quite narrow rooted as well, low rooted. It's almost sometimes a case of and you related this. It's when they come down, not if they come down.
Exactly. And we knew that once one of them had come down, the other ones had come down, and our neighbours had even said to us themselves, they've been watching those trees for the last 20 years waiting for them to come down. So, I think this firefighting that the ESB are doing is really not, we need to be kind of looking at things that are a risk and dealing with them before things happen and not after things happen,
Yeah, I think so. Listen, it's one of those, thankfully no one was injured, but it's a nightmare for you because you're going to have to deal with it now. All right, Claudia, listen, thanks for joining us, and I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Take care of yourself. 086 60 25,000. Keep us updated. Declan J. Cassidy's with me now. Declan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm all right. You're another person affected by the storm through international travel. What's your situation?
Well, we were coming back from a funeral in Manchester yesterday, so our flight was due to take off around 1:30, and we had seen that there was a storm, obviously, and we saw a lot of flights cancelled, but our flight got the green light to go ahead. So the first thing was we were an hour and a half before late taking off, and we had a gate change, and it was an Irish flight, so we had one guy playing the Case of Asra on the mouth organ, so I think that set the tone for the passengers.
I'm not sure I'd be a big fan of that, but anyway, it seems to always happen when we're flying places.
Yeah, well, at least it wasn't nearer my God to thee, But so we got into the air about an hour and a half late, and then it wasn't so bad coming across because we would have been above it, I suppose. But as soon as we started to descend into Dublin, things got very ropey. I remembered having travel sickness in cars when I was a little kid, and I'd forgotten about it, and it all suddenly came back for the first time after many flights. It was really, really bumpy, and we could also see other planes. We went into a holding pattern. So we were up there for a long, long time, and we could see other planes outside. And then when we got a glimpse of the Irish Sea, I've never seen anything like it. It was really, really whipped up, So finally, then we came in on final approach, and the plane was going from side to side and into air pockets and up and down. And just as we lined up to the airport, and everyone holding their breath, the pilot just aborted and went back up again. So we were told then we were heading back to Manchester because nothing was available in Ireland. And then we were told that Manchester was full with diverted aircraft, so we were going to East Midlands, and a big groan went up. And then we were told, no, East Midlands can't take us either, so we're going to Paris. And a big cheer went up. I think people were thinking to get to the wine, So we landed actually in Beauvais. And I was up getting the coat ready to get off, but nothing was happening. And then it turned out that the pilot was waiting to see whether we could fly back to Dublin and have another go at landing. So we ended up for 5 hours on the tarmac in Paris. People were told they could get off if they wanted to, and 3 people did. And then we were told that there were no more flights out of Paris until next Wednesday. Yes. So if you did get off, you were under your own steam.
Wow.
So everyone just sat in. I think people were surprisingly, good-natured about it, and the crew were incredible because they've been going since very early. But we were waiting for a time slot and waiting for updates and that. And there was one poor couple who had a child who was running out of formula. So it was really, I think, particularly tough on the little ones. But then finally we took off again, and it was a very somber flight back toward, because we'd been all on our phones and being told, look, stay where you are. It's getting worse, if anything, in Dublin. But I suppose the first bit of positive news came when on the way over, the pilot said the wind had shifted direction, so he felt we'd a better chance. But we were told that if we didn't make the landing in Dublin, the only other alternative at that stage was Cologne in Germany. So on final approach again, it was really, really rough, but the sea looked less chopped up, and then it was quite funny as we came in, and people somebody went, go on, and then everyone kind of started. So the pilot was getting this, go on, you know, and as we saw the runway lights, and then we got down, and it was probably the dodgiest landing I've ever experienced, but it was probably my favourite because it got us down.
Touchdown, you know? and the fellow with the mouth organ at that point, he was still going, was he, or did he retire at that point?
Well, yeah, I think there was a general chorus at the end, but we were 11 hours really from the moment we boarded the plane. We were 11 hours.
And do you think the three got off in Paris because they said, I just can't, I'm not flying? You know what I mean? Do you think they got off out of fear?
I imagine. Yeah, I imagine so, because you know, we were 5 hours on the tarmac, but I think the reason that people were not too agitated about not going is because the thought of going back into what we'd been through was you know, not pleasant. Let's say. You're kind of torn between getting up and being stuck in France, or staying with it and going through that again. You know, so. You know, you're trying to decide the lesser of two evils.
Well,
but,
back on terra firma, Declan. We're glad you're home safe anyway. But
thanks a million.
It's amazing stuff. All right, thanks so very much indeed. That's Declan Cassidy there with his experience. Okay, Patsy McGonigal joins us now of the Finn Valley Centre. Patsy, are you there? Sorry for holding you. Good morning to you.
No bother, Greg. No bother.
Right, okay. Exactly, it's a bit calmer now. Yesterday evening, it became clear that there was some structural damage to the Finn Valley Centre. What was the situation?
The situation is at around 9 o'clock. We began to get calls. We had closed early, obviously, you know, because of the conditions, and basically at 9 o'clock, you know, the roof. Portions of the roof were on the move, so there was a danger to traffic, there was a danger to people. You know, that kind of sheeting that's on part of our new build would be seriously, and there's two roads running in there into the junction. You know, so that was our concern. So we got the guards on the case to try and get the road closed. So basically we lost a bit of the roof there at that end, and interesting as well, Greg. You know, the ferocity of the bloody one was that you know, AstroTurf, which would have a heavy covering of stuff, you know, to keep it down. Obviously, it was on the move as well, you know, down in the car park area. So, you know, it just goes to show you the nature of the actual, the degree of the wind quality, you know. So that's it. So our situation at the moment is that the swimming pool is closed, but the athletic centre is still going. But we're waiting for the insurance people. But we're kind of fingers crossed. You know, there's no internal damage, and it's just limited to the roof, really.
And I think, as you said, Patsy, the concern was at the time if any of this material would injure or what have you. So once we've got past that, we can patch the building back up. Thankfully, no one was injured through the process of the loss of some of this external sheeting.
Exactly. That's it. And somebody said on numerous occasions there's nobody hurt. So that's what really was the underlying thing. Yeah, critical. That's it. So the swimming pool, just to repeat for people, the swimming pool is closed today. Just keep watching the Facebook and see regarding. Hopefully we'll get it open up good and quick again. But the other side of the centre is open for normal business. All
right, good stuff. Thanks very much, Patsy. Right. Thanks for the update. Patsy McGonigal there from the Finn Valley Centre. So that's a bit of good news. Right, we're going to have to take a quick break. Stay with us. We're going to be chatting to Dominic about his experience flying again after these.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 19th of January. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S15. It's game number 3. The number's on.
Make 5 dinners for under €25 with Dunnes Stores. Save in the aisle with everything you need for sausage pasta bake, chicken burrito bowl, Thai red curry veg soup, tasty pizza wrap, and fresh cod tray bake. All for just €24.73 when you save with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Download the app and get your voucher today. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Lower your food bills with own brand offers at Kelly Centra in Letterkenny. Save up to 50% on the branded options, many often from the same producer or supplier. You'll find own brand products in almost every department, so why not seek out the savings? At Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. When it's time for confirmation, it's time for a trip to Watson Menswear. Choose from the great selection of top label casual and formal wear, blazers, jackets and shirts, also denims, chinos and footwear from big names like Diesel, 1880 Club and Tommy Bow. At Watson Menswear, open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny, and at watsonmenswear.com.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Okay, Dominic, good morning to you.
Good morning, Craig.
You were flying from Amsterdam. What was your experience?
Craig, yesterday we were flying from Amsterdam to Dublin, and originally our flight time was 5 to 3, leaving Amsterdam. That was delayed then to 4:05. So anyway, we started to board the gate, and we're put on the plane at 3:15. The flight leaves just before 4, I believe. Then when we were going to land on to Dublin, the landing was aborted because obviously the nature of the storm. So we go back into the air. We were then told within the air 10 minutes, we were told we were going to go to Shannon Airport, which fair enough, grand. Then another 10-15 minutes might have passed. Then we were told that the pilot got the wrong information, that the storm is obviously bad there as well. So we're now diverting to Stansted Airport in London. So we head to Stansted Airport. We land at Stansted Airport and we are kept off the runway for about 4 hours on the plane, not allowed off the plane. No fresh air, no water, no food. We were told that we couldn't purchase anything because the water or any of the food they can't sell once the plane is grounded or landed on the airport. So we were kept in the plane for about 4 hours, Greg. Some updates, maybe an hour and a half at a time. Maybe 3 hours might have passed. The pilot comes on board and says, listen, we are now going to refuel and go back to Dublin Airport. Now, the majority of the people on that plane did not want to fly. Like, when we were sitting on off the runway, the plane was literally shaking with the force of the winds. Mm-hmm. So, like the majority of people were even happy to get off the plane, pay for their whole accommodation, wait until today until things settled, and then pay for another flight.
But you weren't allowed to get off.
The majority of people were happy to do that.
Dominic.
What's that, Craig?
You weren't allowed to get off.
We weren't allowed to get off.
Wow.
We're not allowed to get off. No fresh air. There was one or two young kids and everything in the plane. We weren't even told why we weren't allowed off. Like even if we had got a bit of fresh air, food, a bit of water, and then maybe boarded again.
Yeah.
But we weren't even allowed to do that.
And then eventually you did get back on the plane, landed in Dublin, but that wasn't the end of it. You were still stuck on the plane.
Absolutely. It just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. So we landed just after, I think it was 11:20 in Dublin Airport. Very strangely, as we all know, when we land on the airport, we go to a gate. We land in the airport and we just literally roll off the runway and park up away from Terminal 1 or Terminal 2, just away from it, very strangely. So we park up. Within 10 minutes, we're told that we're waiting on a tug truck. Which I was like, a tug truck? So apparently they thought the plane was landing and was empty.
That's what we were told.
Wow.
And that they were waiting in the tug truck then to take us to one of the gates. That there, from landing 11:20 to eventually getting to a gate and getting off the plane was 1:20.
Unbelievable stuff. And just finally, would it put you off flying, the actual experience?
Absolutely. Like we're regular enough, travellers and get on a plane or whatever. That there was the worst I've ever seen. Like I wouldn't even say incompetency. I don't even know what it was. I really don't know.
All right, Dominic. Well, listen, terrible story, but glad you're down safe. Thank you very much for coming on to the programme. Right, the European Parliament Petitions Committee has published its draft report on the fact-finding field trip to Donegal, which took place in October. The findings will be discussed at the Petitions Committee in Brussels tomorrow. It contains, the draft report contains 6 recommendations to local, regional and national authorities of Ireland and the European Commission, one of which relates to the defective concrete block redress scheme. OK, we've a number of guests to join us on this. I'm going to start with Joe Morgan, if that's OK, lead on EU engagement for the defective block campaign. Firstly, the wheels have moved remarkably quick on this. It feels like that to me anyway, Joe. But just give us a brief synopsis as how this issue ended up in Europe.
Sure, Greg, and thanks for taking the time to have us on. So, Greg, there's been conversations since Thursday last week in terms of complaints and reports and the Commission and the Parliament. So let me just put that in context and try and line that up for people. So within the EU institutions, we have 2 major institutions, the Commission and the Parliament. And the Commission are responsible for penning or proposing EU law, whereas the Parliament then adopt them, right, and Member States then implement EU law. So the crucial piece here in terms of our objective is the Commission has the legal authority to infringe Member States if they fail to introduce EU law, right? So they've always been our target. But you can't just rock up to the EU Commission, knock the door and expect it to open and be invited. You need an introduction, and that's where the EU Parliament and particularly this report comes into play. So we've been working with the Parliament, and through Luke and his team have been educated and supported in terms of navigating the corridors of the Parliament, and ultimately the Parliament have now engaged their highest level of escalation in terms of what they can do for us in the form of this report. And I'm actually immediately after this interview, I'm on my way to Brussels. I'll be meeting up with Luke, and when that report is being presented to the Commission, we are also going to be presenting a direct complaint from homeowners to the Commission. And the idea there is to keep the report and the complaint in lockstep, because the report itself is an independent, objective opinion on the crisis here in Ireland from an EU institution, and it therefore has a lot of credibility. So we're going to lend or borrow, if you like, some of that credibility for our complaint by making sure that both documents and both records of the crisis are presented to the Commission in lockstep.
Luke McFlanagan, you mentioned is Midlands North West MEP. Luke, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. And with the weather and all, we're all a little bit delayed.
Right up there. That was a terrible night.
It was indeed. Luke, so put this into context to us. This is really, quite a damning indictment of the handling of this crisis here. Can you talk to us about how regular this is, the significance of it, sort of frame it for us as to what the EU's doing and its commentary on this crisis?
Well, I'll put it in context for myself, and I maybe put it in context for a lot of people in Donegal, the majority who vote against referenda on the European Union. I have to say, when we went into this at first, I would have been a bit sceptical about how far we could go with it. I did say to Joe and Paul and Eileen, a bit of expectation management that who knows how far they'll take it. But I have to say, they pull no punches in this report. They have stated exactly what was stated to them on the mission. When it comes to the grant scheme, they're very, very clear, and this is really important, that it is not good enough. It needs to be beefed up. It needs to take into account people's foundations. It needs to take into account all costs. And what I was a little bit worried about was, because people can be politically politically partisan, and the chair of the committee is from the EPP group, which is the same group that the government are in. I have to say, when the report was being put together, I was worried that it might be a bit of a whitewash, but it certainly isn't. They're very, very, very clear. They're clear in many areas from the point of view of the impact that it's had on people, from a financial, from a health point of view. They're very, very clear about the fact that the Irish government and the Irish state needs to be proactive rather than reactive in the future. And I'm very happy to see that in there, because I think I said that about 20 times on the mission. And one thing that's really impressed me with this group, and it's a very unselfish thing, and myself and my office had discussed this, one of their biggest goals is that this will never happen again. And that doesn't necessarily help them immediately, but they're seeing that potentially this could happen again, and that they don't want it to ever happen again. So if we follow what's said in this report, and we are proactive rather than reactive, then this will not happen again. One of the most important things that they say, though, is that we've got to find out what this has happened. We need a national inquiry into it, and we need to find out who is responsible. And while I feel 100% of the money that this costs people should be paid back to them, wherever it comes from, obviously there are taxpayers out there saying, well, who are the people responsible for this? And they have to be followed. And that's one thing I'm pleased about. This report is very clear. The people who are responsible must be followed. But the big thing that comes out of it is that if the Irish government hasn't done what it's meant to do, then infringement procedures can be taken against them. And I know all about this as a turf cutter and as a European citizen. I had it thrown at me for years that we were breaking some law, the Habitats Directive, by cutting turf in certain places, and we were told that Europe will come after us and we've got a cop on, and how me and my turf cutters were going to cost the country a fortune. Well, the shoe is on the other foot now, and this report makes it quite clear we're not doing something we signed up to do, and if we don't follow through on it, the European Union will come after us.
All right, Eileen Doherty's a homeowner and Defective block campaigner, and is with us as well, Eileen. I mean, from what I've seen of it, and it's just been a busy couple of days, it seems to catch pretty much everything. This is not that the homeowners need vindication, but this sort of indicates every single position, the red tape, the foundations, the level of compensation, so on and so forth, Eileen.
Absolutely, Greg. Yeah, I mean, for years we've been saying all of this stuff, and I think particularly over the last year or so, we have been painted as complainers and as if nothing is good enough. So this is a really good and excellent report, which is, as Luke has said, is objective, or as Joe has said, is an objective report. It shows that we're not the only people who are saying that there are major issues here. I mean, it covers so many different things. I mean, just picking out a couple of things, I think particularly maybe recommendation 5 is one of the key ones that I think homeowners will be interested in, where they talk about the enhanced scheme, not just the original scheme, that the enhanced effective block scheme needs improved, its scope needs widened. In other words, it's not just covering all of the people that are affected, like businesses are excluded, farmers are excluded, other buildings, public buildings are excluded. They talk about the needing to reduce red tape, that the progress is far too slow, which we've been saying as well, and also the fact that there's no involvement from financial institutions. It also talks about the fact that those people who are not in a position to actually avail of the scheme, of which, by the way, Greg, we know there are far too many of those. They said that there has to be arrangements put in place to support homeowners who are not in a position to advance because of cost. So there are an awful lot of specifics. Sometimes you get these reports and they're very generic, and there's not very much specific information or recommendations in there. There is absolutely, we're delighted with the report. And also they talk about the need to engage the EU, the Commission themselves going forward. An awful lot of very good stuff. And I think an absolute credit to Joe Morgan and Luke's team, particularly, who have driven this for the last few years.
Yeah, and I'm going to introduce Paul Donlop into this as well. But just a word back to you, Luke, in that, this is really a very significant report, but I think it's imperative that, obviously we're going to discuss it extensively on this programme and on this radio station as we have. But I just also get the feeling this could be another one of those stories that's ignored nationally, and it really does require, I think, the national media to do the role that the national media should be doing, and to highlight, expose this, and to hold ministers and the government to account.
Well, the one thing that I've been saying about this is, like, the report is very clear, and people have been saying back to me, how long will it take for something to come out of this? The government can look at this objective report now, and they can finally admit that they're not doing what they were meant to do, and they can follow all the recommendations. So today, absolutely everything can change. And as someone who is a proud Irish person, it kind of embarrasses me that we had to go to Europe on it. But now that we have, I think the best thing for our credibility as a country is that we get on ahead of this. We don't wait for a vote. We don't wait for it to go to the European Parliament. We don't, as this happens in many cases, wait till it gets to the steps of the court before something is done, because the longer it goes on and the longer the lessons aren't learned, the more mental health problems it causes for people, the more trauma it causes for people. And look, I have a family, and I tell you, I have 3 daughters, and they're great, but I tell you, it's damned hard work, and life can be a challenge. But I tell you, when you walk through some of these people's houses, it would, and I think it's why Dolores Montserrat broke through the political wall and didn't care who was in government here. It broke everyone's hearts. And okay, maybe the government will try to ignore it. But I tell you, the government are at the most responsive when the people are going to the polls. And they're going to be going to the polls next June. So the timing is perfect.
Yeah, but you see, this is the point. This is the point. This is the point I'm making, you see, because the PR campaign is already being waged, and this would only be a critical voting matter. I mean, it's fine if people want to change the deck chairs around in Donegal, but this is only becomes a critical voting matter if it's framed by the national press to the people in a certain way. Anyway, that's my hobby horse. I don't expect anyone to agree, but for me, it only becomes an issue when it is framed as such to some extent as well. I do agree,
Greg. Unfortunately, you're right. And in fairness, RTE did cover it. But
no, I'm not slacking them. I'm not slacking them off. But this is a really significant piece of news coming out of Europe.
I'll be the first to slag them off. But
all
anyway.
right, okay. Well, sure, we'll do that together later. Come here, Luke. Thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for moving things around for us. Okay, so Paul, they take into consideration the human element of it, the financial element of it, and the science side of it as well. I don't want to always label you as the science guy, don't get me wrong, but what is it that jumps out for you about this report?
The context of why the petition they were here in the first place was because original petitions went across based on the fact that they had a mica problem. Okay, so as we know, the science has been updated. So I was invited down to sort of represent the sort of science community and present details of the latest findings on the research that we've been doing, because we know we don't have a solely a mica problem here in Donegal. We know mica has an issue in concrete, but it's not the thing that's causing the destruction of the concrete. So I was brought in to basically update the science to the delegation and let them understand that actually what we have is that we've got really harmful iron sulfide minerals, mainly pyrrhotite, in the aggregates in Donegal, and that is creating a process that we now know is happening called internal sulfide attack, which causes concrete expansion and then concrete disintegration. So it was really important for them to understand that, because there isn't an EU derogation under for mica, but there is for pyrrhotite and for sulfur levels. So I was really there sharing the science to let them know that actually they have a stake in this, because actually EU regulations are clearly being broken by quarries and concrete manufacturers across all of Ireland, because it's not just Donegal. We know we have the same process, internal sulfide attack, happening in Mayo, County Clare, Limerick, because it's all either pyrite or pyrrhotite that's causing the problem.
And listen, there's a bit of praise in the government for this as well. Very ambitious and comprehensive plan, the mica redress scheme as it's described. So listen, there is a positivity there if you wanted to submit it and say, look, we accept that the EU has said this is an ambitious and comprehensive plan, and we also accept that we need to jig it up a little bit, so it can be spun either which way. I mean, a two-part question before we take a break, and we're going to go to a news bulletin then. What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen? A. B, what do you think will happen off the back of this?
Good questions. Well, first of all, the recommendations were clear. There's not that many. It's not like pages and pages of them. There's 6 or 7 of them. So the government should implement those recommendations because they do reflect what people have been saying about the scheme. It's very lots of red tape. It's hard to get in. It's completely inflexible. There's still not enough grant income there to cover people's costs. And in the mix of all this, people do forget at times in the public that we didn't cause this, and this was caused on us. So, there's a responsibility for government to act on those recommendations, to make the scheme completely fair, completely accessible, and make it work. That's the first thing. What will happen is a very different matter. All I can go is on the track record of this government at the minute is that they seem to have been reluctant to do anything without kicking and screaming on this. I think it's really important that the European Union came across here with fresh eyes, not connected to the whole thing at all, with no real understanding of what's happening, and they've come out with a bunch of recommendations that reflect what people are feeling on the ground. So they should really, as what Luke was saying, get ahead of the game and actually just do this and make the scheme work. Everybody wants to get their houses fixed, and everyone's sick of this at this stage.
Okay, I hope I haven't fallen out with Eileen and Joe. They've cleared off, but
no, Joe had to get a flight to Brussels, and Eileen had an hour meeting.
No, I know that, Paul. Listen, come here. Thanks very much for that. We'll return to this, but we appreciate the team assembling to give us some initial reaction. Take care of yourself. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number. It's been a funny old morning, affected by the weather, and things are running late and what have you. But what we're going to do for you now is going to take a short break, and then Donald's going to be in with a news update for you. We'll have the obituary notices for you as well. So thank you so much for bearing with us on this peculiar Monday morning, post-storm Isha or Isha or whatever way you want to go with that.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
At Electric Ireland, we're here to make your world brighter. All of our 1.1 million customers will see that come to life this winter, with a second price decrease across all residential electricity, gas and dual fuel bills. Good news for you, even better news for your bill. Electric Ireland, making your bills smaller and your world brighter. Second decrease effective from 1st March 2024. Applies to standard unit rate and standing charges. Visit electricireland.ie for further details.
Hi, Mark here from Highland Motors at the Mountaintop in Letterkenny. What would you look for in a new car? Maybe a reversing camera with reversing sensors, bright LED headlights, or maybe you're into your tech, like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Wireless, of course. If you also like great comfort and want all of this at a really good price, the new Citroen C4X U Edition is the car for you. Call in to me at Highland Motors at the Mountaintop in Letterkenny. Oh, and that really good price? 29.9 on the road.
Steer Housing Association in Letterkenny is seeking expressions of interest for voluntary company director roles. Managing 216 properties as an approved housing body, Steer Housing addresses general housing needs with board members overseeing governance, finance and compliance. The association aims to enhance board membership with skills in governance, finance, property management and risk assessment. Interested individuals can contact hr@steerhousing.com or by phone to Elizabeth Doherty, CEO, on 086 1038 973 by January 26th.
This is Dr. Colm Henry, Chief Clinical Officer for the HSE. Right now, COVID-19, flu and RSV are circulating widely in our communities. These can cause severe illness for many people. That's why older people, young children, healthcare workers and people who are pregnant or have a long-term health condition are recommended to get flu and COVID-19 vaccines. It's not too late to get vaccinated to help protect you and the people around you. To check which vaccines are recommended for you, visit hse.ie or talk to a participating GP or pharmacist today. Thank you from the HSE.
Sailor Bill returns to the Ballard Theatre on Saturday the 3rd of February, a night of music and crack with special guest Chelsea Evans. Tickets are €15, are available on the Ballard website at ballardartcentre.com or by calling to the Ballard Theatre front desk.
Good morning. It's 6 minutes past 11. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk with a special bulletin. Over 40,000 homes, farms and businesses remain without power in Donegal after Storm Isha brought down trees and power lines overnight. Red and orange wind warnings are now over, but yellow alerts remain in place in Clare, Donegal, Leitrim, Galway, Mayo and Sligo. The Power Check website is showing indicative restoration times of 6 o'clock this evening for most areas, but Siobhan Wynne of the ESB told Greg Hughes on this morning's 9 till noon show it'll take more than 24 hours to restore power everywhere.
Overnight we had 230,000 customers without power, so that is a really significant number of customers. So realistically we are looking at a multi-day event here. We will obviously try to get as many people back tonight, but inevitably there will be customers out without power tomorrow and possibly for another day after that again.
Meanwhile, a massive clean-up operation is continuing across the county after thousands of trees fell overnight. Other structural damage was experienced at several buildings across the county. On Garda Síochána in Donegal say few roads were spared as trees fell. Donegal County Council's Director of Service for Roads and Transportation is Brian Cannon. He says the clean-up operation continues and the county was badly hit.
Some of it was dealt with yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening in advance of the red alert coming into effect. At that point our crews would have went back home because it just wasn't safe to be out during the red alert, and then they remobilised again this morning and have cleared quite a lot of the main and priority routes and are working their way down through the other roads in order to make them passable. But right across the network, right across from Inishowen down to South Donegal, out to West Donegal, down the Finnandale valleys and in and around Letterkenny in particular.
And the message from Donegal County Council is that there is still a yellow wind warning in place. It can still be dangerous out there, and please be careful, please keep an eye on the roads and always assume that there's a tree down around the next corner. Well, Milford Garda Station took to social media this morning to warn the public of issues with their phone lines in the case of an emergency. Call 999 or 112 for non-emergency incidents. Anyone wishing to contact Milford can do so via Letterkenny Garda Station. They can be contacted on 074 9167 100. 2 people have been killed in separate road crashes overnight in counties Louth and Mayo. A woman in her 20s died when the van in which she was a passenger hit a tree at Cornalog in County Louth just before 2 this morning. A man in his 20s who was also a passenger was hurt and treated for non-life-threatening injuries in hospital. In County Mayo, a man in his 40s was killed in a single vehicle collision in Claremorris last evening. Forensic collision investigations are underway at both scenes and Gardaí are appealing for witnesses. The government says it's fulfilling its commitment to supporting, growing and sustaining third-level education in regional areas. The Higher Education Minister, Simon Harris, has today announced €4.5 million for colleges that have multiple campuses in remote locations. Atlantic Technological University is the main beneficiary, receiving over $2.6 million. The funding will assist with the delivery of services across multiple sites, travel costs between campuses and help compensate for lower staff to student ratios. Minister Harris says the money will help those regional locations reach their full potential.
I really believe when it comes to education, it's so important that we support access to education in the regions, and that means providing additional funding to our higher education institutions to support campuses that might be based in more remote locations and to support them with the additional costs that might be associated with running those campuses. All of our campuses have individual strengths, and whether you're a campus in Killybegs or in Thurles or many other locations right across the country, we need to support you, we need to sustain you, and this direct investment of €4.5 million into regional campuses will help make that a reality.
PSNI detectives in Derry have issued an appeal for information to establish how a man sustained facial injuries on New Year's Eve. The man in his 40s was helped by 2 members of the public between 10 and 10:30. They found him on the ground bleeding. His injury required hospital treatment. Police are asking anyone with information, as well as those who helped the man, to get in touch. And it's expected the Burnfoot flood relief scheme will come before An Bord Pleanála in March. The area was devastated by unprecedented flooding in August 2017, with residents of Páirc na Gréine forced to leave their homes as a result. They have been unable to return. With more, here's Michaela Clark.
The Office of Public Works has confirmed that the Burnfoot flood relief scheme is currently at stage 2 of the 5 stages of its implementation. The body expects the exhibition public engagement stage to be completed by July 2024. In In response to an update requested by the Isha Municipal District, the OPW says a consultant, RPS Belfast, is currently working on issuing the EIA or report for Burnfoot and finalising the Natura impact statement. The letter to the Inishowen MD concludes by stating that the scheme is programmed to be submitted to Bord Pleanála for planning consent in March this year.
Weather forecast now, and it'll be breezy and blustery today with some sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of those showers heavy with a chance of hail. The showers will become isolated this evening. Top temperatures today 6 to 9 degrees Celsius in a fresh to strong westerly wind with some very strong gusts at times. And just a reminder that there is a yellow wind warning in place in Donegal until 7 this evening. Well, that's Highland Radio News. We're back with headlines again at 12 noon. Until then, from the news team, have a very good morning.
Karen Kilmacrennan remains will repose at her home from 4 p.m. today. Requiem Mass on Wednesday at 11 a.m. in St Columba's Church, Kilmacrennan. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Patrick Patsy Collins, Carmel House, Salah Hagrain, Letterkenny. His remains are reposing at his residence. Requiem Mass tomorrow afternoon in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny at 1 p.m. with burial afterwards in Conwall Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed at the St Eunan's webcam. Donations in lieu of flowers to Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. House private please in the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Marlene McShane ní Connolly, 21 Columban Terrace, Strabane, reposing at her home from 12 noon today. Funeral from there on Wednesday morning at 9:20 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the Western Health and Social Care Trust, care of Quickly Funeral Directors. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live at melmountparish.com. The death has taken place of Hugh McMenamin, Halftown Castle Finn. Requiem Mass at St Columba's Church, Donegal today at 12 noon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to Donegal Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the Ernie Castle Finn Parish Facebook page. The death has taken place of George McDermott, Balladerg, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. Funeral Mass is ongoing at St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny. Burial afterwards in Ulex Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Maggie McCafferty, ní Ferry, 1 Elm Court, Ramelton, formerly of Aucherlin, Rathmullen. Remains reposing at her home. Funeral Mass this afternoon at 1 p.m. in St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen. Burial afterwards in Rathmullen Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on mcnmedia.tv. Family time before the funeral this morning. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Patrick Sweeney Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Margaret Boyle, ní Lochry, Carradowan, Rathmullen. Funeral Mass is ongoing in St Catherine's Church, Aucherlin. Burial afterwards in Rathmullen Cemetery. The death has taken place of Teresa McHugh, 22 The Orchard, Dunkerberry, Tullahan, County Leitrim, and formerly of Dramard Frosses, County Donegal. Funeral Mass is ongoing in the Church of the Blessed Virgin Mary Frosses, followed by cremation in Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. Teresa's funeral Mass can be viewed live on mcn.live. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu to Sligo Oncology Unit, care of any family member or John McGowan Funeral Directors. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Enter the Virgin Media Playhouse for unbelievable value from Ireland's best broadband. Get 500 meg super fast, reliable broadband for just €35 a month for 12 months and no activation fee when you act now. Switch in-store or at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. Subject to location and availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. 500 meg broadband. €70 thereafter. Ireland's best broadband awarded by Umlaut. See virginmedia.ie/proof.
Personal improvement deserves recognition. That's progress you can feel. And the very definition of the Audi 241 range. From the striking style and comfort of the enhanced Audi A6 to the era-defining iconic Audi A4 with Competition Edition. And the quietly efficient Audi Q4 e-tron. Electrified driving with no compromise. Test drive the Audi 241 range at an Audi dealer near you today.
The Euro Millions Mega Draw is back, and it's pretty big. It's actually massive. This Friday, the 26th of January, the Euro Millions jackpot will be a guaranteed €130 million. It's just too big to miss.
The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House, Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,350 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Don't miss the BAFTA award-winning comedian Michael McIntyre's brand new show, Magnificent, at the SSE Arena Belfast on Friday the 31st of May 2024. As always, Highland Radio make it easy for you as we look after all your needs. We will provide luxury transfers, overnight stay at the Clayton Hotel Belfast on a B&B basis, your ticket to the show, shopping time in Belfast City Centre. For more information, go to the outlet at highlandradio.com or give us a call on 074 91 25000. Michael McIntyre in Belfast.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Okay, there's another named storm due to hit the country tomorrow. It's an orange warning at this point. I'll give you more details about that a little later on. But the weather now today will be breezy and blustery with sunny spells and scattered showers. Some heavy with a chance of hail. Showers will become isolated this evening. Highest temperatures of 6 to 9 degrees and a fresh to strong westerly wind with some very strong gusts at times. So continue, please, to stay safe out there. Declan Means, a community campaigner and a recently declared candidate in the local elections, and he joins me now. Declan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for joining us. Right, okay, so a video appeared online at the weekend claiming 17 houses in Milford were being given out by the department as an iPass centre, effectively, or for refugees or asylum seekers. And quite understandably, myself, and I'm sure you and others, were contacted by people who were really quite concerned about this. So before we get to the claims contained within, can you just give us a bit of a background to these 17 houses? Because it has been somewhat controversial, Declan, please.
Yeah, so the 17 houses were originally planned as a turnkey acquisition from Donegal County Council to provide social housing in the Milford area. So 17 houses obviously would go a long way to addressing the local housing waiting list. So it was a very welcome development at the time. The nature of turnkey acquisitions pre-COVID were that contracts weren't signed as a matter of course, so that either party could walk away for whatever reason. That I understand is different now, that when a turnkey acquisition is underway, then contracts are signed. But this particular development, contracts weren't signed. And when the houses were completed, the contractor who had constructed them was looking for an increase because of the increase in costs associated with delivery of houses. And that proved difficult in negotiations with Donegal County Council, and so the houses were not acquired by the council as per the original agreement. What happened since then was a third party entered into negotiations, which is an approved housing body called Cooperative Housing Ireland. They're an approved housing body which has delivered about 5,000 social houses across Ireland over the past number of years. The approved housing body structure, acquiring or building social housing is a really important part of social housing delivery and for housing policy generally in Ireland. initially the council were supportive of Cooperative Housing Ireland purchasing those houses off the contractor, acquiring them for the purposes of social housing, and that was confirmed in June 2023. So the process was put in place then for the housing body to secure finance through what's called the Capital Advance Leasing Facility, or CAF, C-A-L-F.
Yeah.
The council is needed, I suppose the council's support is needed for that to proceed. Then in November just past, November 2023, the Cooperative Housing Ireland received an indication from the council that they would no longer be supportive of the application to CAF. And so what should be now, for two opportunities, these 17 houses coming into the social housing stock locally in the Milford area have been missed. And it seems that we need clarity from the County Council as to why that has happened, because there are families waiting on these 17 houses. They've been waiting for a number of years, and these houses are currently lying vacant, obviously at a great cost to the contractor as well, who has delivered them. But they're lying empty at Lochfern Heights in Milford, and we need to know what the story is with the CAF application. Why has the County Council withdrawn its support, which has ultimately resulted in 17 houses not now becoming social housing?
Which is crazy in a housing crisis with so much need. Again, I suppose it's another situation where there is a vacuum, or there's a gap, or there's misinformation, or there's confusion, and often that can get filled with other information. And as I say, a video appeared online purporting that these 17 houses were for foreigners, in inverted commas, not the word I would use, but I suppose that's a catch-all. You wanted to seek clarification on this, or what the situation was. So what did you do, and what have you found out?
Yeah, so the video appeared on Saturday evening, and a number of local residents in Lochfern Heights had also contacted me about it, I suppose inquiring as to whether or not I'd heard anything. I hadn't heard anything at that point. So I contacted the Minister, Roderick O'Gorman, directly, who was speaking to a number of times over the weekend. He confirmed that there was no contract in place, nor was there any application or indication of anyone seeking a contract for an iPass centre at Lochfern Heights. So that's categorically from the department side. I then was speaking to the contractor, PJ Doherty, directly yesterday, and he had, around the same time that we were chatting, was issuing a statement to the residents of Lochfern Heights, confirming the exact same. There was absolutely no intention for the 17 houses to be used as an iPass centre of the accommodation of refugees. What he did say was that he was losing hope that the houses could be sold on for the purposes of social housing because of the two opportunities that the council have had to support that process, and that not going forward at the minute. And that what he was considering was putting the houses up for private rental on the public rental market. So I guess the situation is that the misinformation that was, I suppose, put out about it being used as an iPass centre was just that, misinformation, completely untrue. But I suppose it speaks to the fact that in Milford, this is a burning issue. The 17 vacant houses are a burning issue. It is something that people are very and rightly annoyed about. This opportunity to provide 17 homes to people on housing waiting lists being missed in two different iterations. Those houses are lying vacant while people are waiting for housing. And so misinformation will always creep in and around that, and fears and concerns about it.
Yeah, and I got some contacts from people too that once this information was put out there, that they wanted extra security in the area, because what we have seen, unfortunately, is around the country and here in Donegal as well, that when something has been earmarked or suggested or flagged, whether it's true or false, for the accommodation to be made available as an iPass or for iPass applicants or whatever it might be, that fires can start, damage can be caused. Did you hear any similar concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a concern I had myself, which is why I wanted to, I suppose, clarify what the situation was in relation to the 17 houses. And that was something that I had expressed to the Minister, Roderick O'Gorman, as well, was that, we need to know either way what the plan is for these houses, if there was one from the department's point of view, so that we can either quash the rumours in order to protect the safety of the buildings, or that we can prepare for any potential fallout from it being used as an outpass centre. So that correct information and that clarity for me is extremely important and is crucial. But what I would like to say as well, Greg, is the residents who had contacted me in relation to this were concerned exactly about that, potential arson attacks on the buildings, but also they weren't necessarily concerned about the houses actually being used for accommodating anyone, but there is always going to be ill feeling around these houses if they are not used for what they were originally intended, which was social housing.
Yeah.
And I think that's very valid anger and annoyance. And again, we need clarity from the County Council on why that support for the application for CAF funding was withdrawn in November in 2023.
Yeah, it's multi-layered, the issues here indeed. OK, listen, thank you very much, Declan Meehan. I do appreciate your time today. That is Declan Meehan there. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. Right, so, I mean, obviously, all of us across the Northwest, or wherever you're listening to us today, if you were impacted by the storm, we had our concerns about, what the roof, if something might happen to the roof, if something might blow off, if the power would go out, if the broadband would go down, and in all of those situations in time, hopefully things could be overcome. But there's thousands of people across this county and many more across this country that there's a different emotion when they hear a storm coming, because they're living in a defective concrete home. And the storm can have a much different impact on that, the wind whistling right through the property and so on. One listener, Joy, gives us an insight into what it was like for her.
What families had to endure last night was horrendous. For those who have properties built with defective concrete, the wind howling round our houses in fear of our lives and our children's lives was disgusting. This is the way we've been abandoned. How many storms is it going to take before someone is maimed or worse? That's my biggest fear. I'm just so pleased this time that everyone seems to have made it through. But are we going to be as lucky next time? The scheme does not work. The government need to revise the scheme. They need to abolish IS 465, and they need to start respecting homeowners that are living this day in, day out. Last night, having to endure that was absolute terror.
All right, that's listener Joy there. And by the way, just to invite you that if you want to send voice messages to the programme and have your say that way, please feel free to do so. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp number in that regard. All right, Brendan Devaney's back after these.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Boots Best for Less. Here to help you save more on the products you love. Whether you're flirting with a new look, ooh, look at you, practicing a little self-care, or blushing over new beauty. We're with you for getting the best and nothing less. Shop the products you love at prices you love even more and get the best for less at Boots. Boots, with you for life. See boots.ie for details.
Go full Lidl with these exclusive Lidl Plus offers, like Board B approved Irish Angus lean steak mince was $5.99, now $4.79. Have a side of microwavable baby potatoes, 50% off, only 49¢. And Irish grated mature white cheddar cheese was $2.19, now $1.64. Scan your Lidl Plus app and go full Lidl today.
If you're starting a new business in 2024, let BizPrint help with all your printing needs. Logo design, invoice books, business cards and promotional products. Call BizPrint in Letterkenny today on 9177 955 or visit bizprint.ie.
On Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
A new year and a promise to eat better. At Kelly Centra, you'll find everything you'll need to cook simple and delicious dinners with a great variety of protein choices and vegetarian options. All the ingredients to cook something tasty and a great range of healthy ready meals. Make the right choice this January at Kelly Centra, Mountain Top, Letterkenny.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
OK, the time is 11:31 and he's back. Brendan Devaney, presenter of the DL Debate. That means the DL Debate's back. Good morning to you, Brendan.
Good morning, Greg.
All right, I see the storm's blowing your beard off.
Yes.
You gave in the end.
I did in the end, yeah. I just got a bit itchy on it. I was like, let's
Was it your own decision?
It was, yeah. I'm in charge of my own facial hair, yeah.
Oh. Right, okay. Big guest this week. You have a sit-down chat with Jim McGuinness.
Yeah.
And I think it comes at a really good time here because he's settled in. We had the highs and as some might see it, the lows of the McKenna Cup. It's all business. We're heading to play Cork at the end of this month. I think you're getting him at a really good time.
Yeah.
Because if it was before those games, it would be a different type of an interview.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot for you to dig in here with him.
That's it. I mean, it's a huge story. I was kind of thinking about opening remarks. Jim already has a book out at this stage, but he's done this last number of years. There's probably definite room for another one in there. He's been on an amazing trip between after the phenomenal 4 years of Donegal, some of the greatest times ever, taking us from, maybe ranked about 14, 15 to number one in the country, won in the All-Ireland, the Ulster Championships, and of course the second final, and then he heads the Celtic performance, takes up his coaching badges, ends up assistant manager in China, and then head coach in Charlotte in America, and now he's back with us. So it's a huge story. But of course, listen, this is all about the GAA really, but I'm interested to get a few words in on that. But definitely, it's all about his
how open will he be in relation to that, or is he the type that will hold his cards close to his chest? Because you could frame it as he had a look at the soccer, it didn't work for him, he's back to GAA. He had a look at the soccer, he's going to go back to it. You know what I mean? There's lots of... it'll be interesting to see what his assessment of that path is.
Whether you think he's given up on the soccer or whether he'll go back to it. Yeah, it's interesting because he went on, as I say, we keep talking about this journey, but I mean, to be around the world that he's done and all he's experienced, and I'm just wondering how much he can take from that experience back into Donegal, because at the end of the day, we're all about Donegal now, and he's still been analysing GAA and his time off and that, and he's obviously very in depth in terms of his attitude towards the game. So now with the change, because he changed the game, he didn't just have this phenomenal 4 years with Donegal, he changed the game. And if you look at the best football team that ever played the game, which was a Dublin team, his tactics beat them and changed their whole mindset.
But he came up against his own game to some extent on Saturday, I think.
A lot of us casual
fans, the first couple of games, scoring freely, lots of goals, high pressing, winning the kickouts, pressing up, all that kind of stuff looked fantastic on paper. And for those less informed, a little bit like myself, it was kind of a reality check coming up against a top team in Derry, and it kind of felt, well, is that undone or what? You know what I'm on about now? Yeah. You've played the game at the highest level, you commentate the game, you study the game, you saw it as different. I mean, you would have gone into that game saying, hold on a second, this Derry outfit we're about to take on is very different to what we've come up to so far in the McKenna Cup.
Yeah, they were top class. I suppose there's a whole lot in this guy, particularly, it's January. Derry, Mickey Hart's in there now. He has to hit the ground running. Division 1, Derry are up. So Derry were way ahead. Those other teams we played, they weren't at the races, experimental sides. We had the training camp as well. So I think our legs were a good bit ahead, our togetherness was a good bit ahead. So that Derry side we played last day, I thought particularly second half, they were brilliant. First half, there wasn't much in it. There was an incident, Shane O'Donnell, just down at the end there, should have got a free. We probably should have went in level at half time, not two down. Everything Derry had, I think they won wide second half. They were really ruthless second half, but they were also very hard to break down. Now, I would go back to the fact that our core players, our midfield, particularly like Langan, McGee, Owen Ban, McCole, where you build your team around, the core of that wasn't there. Now, people will say the few players were missing from Glen, from the Derry side, but that's a Derry team probably should have been in the All-Ireland final last year. They're back-to-back Ulster champions, so maybe a wee bit early for this Donegal team to match up to them that good. I mean, Jim.
But what do we have to do to match up to that Derry?
Well, I think Jim's still bedding in. I was at Jimmy McDade's doing Friday night, and funny, a lot of Donegal fans, they were talking, you got up the game, and I was like, yeah. And they were like, we should beat Derry, we probably got maybe we better hit ourselves because the quality opposition wasn't that good we were playing. But in many ways, there's a reality check for Jim and his lads. They say, right, they're a wee bit ahead of us in terms of setting the bar. That's what we need to get to, and look what happened in that game. But that's what the McKenna Cup's about. Yeah, and that's how mid-commentary, if I picked it up correctly, you and Osh were down at the game, of course. So that's how you were gauging it. You were this. It wasn't as if you were comparing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Donegal and Derry on the same level. You were sort of critiquing Donegal against a team that you believe were way far and ahead of Donegal, if that makes sense. Yeah, and listen, I suppose last year, if you look at from the championship, and don't forget, it's McKenna Cup, of course, and even reading too much under the league, Greg, is trying to pinpoint 2-1 everything. We're looking forward to the. Well, yeah, well, it's all built up to the championship. It can't just all be about the championship. Well, the league's really important, isn't it? In terms of what you're based on, it is. Right. I mean, let's say if I asked you to name the last 4 league winners in Division 1, go on, you'd struggle. Whereas championship is different. So listen, it's all about build up. If you look at that last year, when we were missing maybe 6 or 7 players, and maybe as much as 8 or 9 in terms of new players, and we give that Derry side a game for about 45 minutes in Balbuffet. So it's hard to gauge. I think that Mickey Hart is looking at this, and he loves the McKenna Cup. He's won it so many times. I think with the bit of question mark over him, he knows that this league, they play, Tyrone play, or Derry play Tyrone and Kerry in their opening games. Huge matches, and I think would Hart get off to a bad start, would put a wild pressure on him from the get-go. So I think Derry are really, really flying at this stage as well. So I think that probably had an impact in the game. But as I say, second half, they were streets ahead of us, and a lot of our players didn't perform well. Okay. Again, it's January. I don't mind that. Are you getting any sense of the Derry fans' reaction to Mickey Hart, if that makes sense? Because I mean, obviously, there's a lot of history there. Are they warming to him? I think, funny, coming off the pitch, a few come up to him, and I was like, I got the sense from Mickey straight away, because obviously we had all the stuff, and you had the Brawley comments and that, which were completely out of order. I mean, at the end of the day, Derry asked Mickey Hart to be manager. And he's a very normal, nice guy as well. He didn't go after Derry. No, he is, but this thing of not wanting him, I mean, if the county board go and that's their job, to go and get him. And once he's in there, you either support him or you don't. But I would imagine results will dictate a lot of that. It'll probably be awkward for Mickey, I would imagine, should he play Tyrone in particular. But I really got the sense from him the last night that he's there, he's the manager, and maybe this in many ways, Greg, I was just thinking about it as a turning point, because I could never have seen something like that happening before, particularly with the history he had with one county that's a big rival county. So maybe in years to come, it won't be such a big thing that a manager can go. I mean, we see it across the water. We're always looking across to soccer. Say the ex-Arsenal manager going to Spurs or something like that happening, thinking, God, could this ever happen? And some people will break down the barrier. So I think Hart going to Tyrone was completely unexpected, or Hart going to Derry was completely unexpected, but it looks like he's going to make a good job. Yeah, and as you say, maybe it's just the new norm. Right, listen, there was quite a bit of action across the weekend, but tonight's show's about a sit down with Jim McGuinness. Yep, we'll see how that going. I'm going to talk to Jim now down in his Creasla home, and we'll get a good chat. And we're going to, of course, review the league final. Donegal ladies won their opening league fixture too against Laois at the weekend. So listen, we've a good bit of stuff to wrap up, but I think everybody in Donegal is very intrigued to hear Jim's words and just his plans and how he sees the game, how it's changed. I think it's really, at this time, it's going to be really, really interesting. Okay, I know you've got all the good questions, so we can look forward to listening to those. There'll be headlines coming out of it, there's just no doubt about that. It's Brendan Devaney on the DL debate tonight, the star of the show, Jim McGuinness. Brendan about to go down and have that sit-down interview with him, and of course he'll keep you up to date with whatever else has been happening. Brendan, it's on after 7, isn't it? I haven't forgot that. I'm correct. Right. right, dude. You're right. Yeah, the brain's working well, dude. Yeah.
All right, great to have you back. We'll be back with our next guest after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Make 5 dinners for under €25 with Dunnes Stores. Save in the aisle with everything you need for sausage pasta bake, chicken burrito bowl, Thai red curry veg soup, tasty pizza wrap, and fresh cod tray bake. All for just €24.73 when you save with a 5 of 25 grocery voucher. Download the app and get your voucher today. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Well, Grace, how are you today?
I'm good. I've just been down to the Made to Measure Fireplaces showroom in Creasla. They have an incredible selection of over 40 colours for kitchen worktops. And guess what? For a limited time, they're offering a 40% discount on any electric fire when you purchase a worktop there.
40%? That's an amazing deal, Grace.
Absolutely. And trust me, if the discount alone doesn't sway you, their huge selection of fireplaces, stoves, wood pellet burners, beams and stone cladding certainly will.
Contact Made to Measure Fireplaces Creasla on 074 91 38 365 on Facebook, Instagram and on mtmfireplaces.ie.
Join me, Marty Friel, every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7, where you can enjoy dinner and drinks in the Woodbury Grill, Bar and Restaurant before bowling in Arena 7's state-of-the-art lanes. See arena7.ie.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Newly engaged and planning your wedding? If so, the Villa Rose and Jackson's Dual Wedding Showcase takes place on Saturday, January 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. Come along and view both stunning wedding venues and meet the dedicated wedding teams at Villa Rose and Jackson's Ballybuffet.
You're very welcome back to the programme, and our Monday focus today is on stammering, and we've got 2 guests in studio with us today. We've got Sam Anderson from Rathmullen. Good morning, Sam. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Greg. How's
It's
things?
good, and it's great to have you in. And also Shannon McEwen from Letterkenny, who's a primary coach on the Maguire programme. Good morning to you, Shannon. Thanks so much for calling in. I'll start with you, Sam. You're challenged with a stammer. That's the correct terminology that's used, isn't it? Yes, so how has this developed or emerged in your life? Was it from a very young age, or?
Well, Greg, I have always had a stammer. And I think through primary and especially into secondary school is where it really kicked in. And that's where the whole physical and psychological fear of it really kicked in, where you were holding back so often.
And are there certain situations where your stammer might be worse or less, or is it consistent with you, Sam?
Comes and goes. It depends on the situation in general.
So this is kind of a stressful situation here because you're not on the radio. Would this make it a little bit more difficult for you, or do you have the tools now that you can cope in more stressful situations?
I have the tools, but this is still quite a nerve-wracking situation. But I'm also quite confident also.
Brilliant. Okay. So how did it impact you, or how do you want to phrase it? Because I know the obvious things like about, in school and all that, but yes. I want it in your words, Sam. As a younger person with a stammer, how was it? How did it affect you?
Socially, big time. You really held back from. You couldn't really be you. You're okay around your family and friends and close friends. But in the general sense, in class, you're holding back from speaking. You aren't speaking out. You aren't ordering food. You're getting your family and friends to order the food for you and to order drinks, and even speaking on the phone was a big no-no. If my house phone rang, I would always get my parents to answer it. I would always text rather than call. Just the small things that people who don't have a stammer don't think about. And it's more the psychological aspect of it that really kicks in that the people can't see. It's the fear, the nerves, the anxiety, the holding back, the overthinking. It's just everything.
Is it physically draining as well as emotionally draining?
Yes. Well, more emotionally, more so. You can see there's two different types of stammers. There's covert and there's overt. I am very much overt, whereas you can see the physical blocking. You can see the stammering, you can see the effect that it has, but you can't see the psychological impact that it has. And then you've got the covert people, where they may seem that they're a fluent speaker, but they're able to substitute words in their head that the sentence still makes sense. So the person that they're talking to hasn't a clue that they even have a stammer.
They're a bit more cute on it, or
Exactly.
whatever way you might want to describe it.
But they still have the same psychological effect on them also.
And I'll come back to you because you've benefited from the Maguire programme, and I'm kind of interested as to when that kicked into you, Shannon. But the Maguire programme is something we've been talking about for quite some time, but really being properly established as a programme and its effects being proven, it's relatively recent, is it?
Yeah, so this year is actually the 30th anniversary of the programme. It was set up in 1994 by an American guy called Dave Maguire, and then it eventually made its way to Ireland in 1998, I think. So it's been established here since then, and thousands of people have gone through the Maguire programme in Ireland, like myself and Sam, and I can safely say for the two of us, it's just completely changed our lives. Even for me to be here live on air with you, Greg, speaking about this, I joined 8 years ago, and if you told me then that I'd even be speaking about my stammer, for me it was very much something that I brushed under the carpet. It wasn't there, elephant in the room as such, and now I'm very open and honest about it, and I'm really happy that we can be on here to just raise a bit of awareness for it.
And was your younger years, your childhood, very similar to Sam's?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a stammer since I was 3, so pretty much my whole life. But for me, as a child, it would tend to come and go until I was around 8 years old, and then it stuck with a vengeance. And I noticed that I was, like Sam said, just different to other people, and made me very self-conscious, so I didn't really want to speak to people. I was very lucky in school. I had a great group of friends that I stuck to. I would get them to maybe ask a question in class for me rather than me having to put up my hand. Like Sam, if I was out for food, I would get them to order.
You just find little ways to...
Or I'd order something that I could actually say as opposed to what I wanted, just because my fear level was that high and I'd be that embarrassed to stammer in front of somebody.
And sorry, go ahead, Sam. Yep.
Different tricks to help you cope, to help you speak. Some people could be slapping their thigh, some people could be doing other things. Everybody has has a trick of some sort that helps them speak.
It's a survival mode, is it really? Not that it's like life and death, but you say, well, how can I operate in this world?
In a feared situation.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be, almost.
And Sam, in terms of the Maguire programme, and it's really and these are two perfect examples as to why people listening should engage. Are you consciously, actively employing that program as we speak now, or after you've done it for a while, is it sort of on autopilot, or what way is it for you at the moment?
Both. If you've got a feared situation like here coming up, or a challenging situation, then you really practice it. You really drill it in hard to get your speech to a strong point for it. But I think the key to this program is that the program itself is run by people who stammer. So everyone on the program has come through it, and only for people who stammer, it's only them who really know how it feels to have a stammer. Yes, your family and friends are really hurting for you whenever you're blocking and pushing out them words and sounds uncontrollably, and you know that they're hurting for you, but only you as a stammerer really knows how it feels. The others are only scratching the surface when they think that they know. They haven't a clue, to be honest.
Shannon, was it hard for you to sort of, trust that this might work? Like, I'm kind of curious as that when you make that call or when you make that initial contact, how quickly the Maguire program can be seen to be working, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so Greg, I actually had speech therapy as a child. I had it twice, and it would work for a while with me, but sooner or later I'd find myself back at square one again. So I just started to think then, this is going to be my life now. There's no cure. I'll be like this forever. And then one night Mum was searching for something to help me, and she came across the Maguire programme. So I got signed up and I went down to Galway for a few days, not really expecting anything. As I say, speech therapy hadn't helped, so I thought this course was going to be exactly the same. Bit of a waste of time, but sure, I'll give it a go. And well, the programme, it's a 3-day course. On Wednesday, I went in with no expectations. And Saturday, when the programme ended, I was a changed person.
Wow, I didn't realise it was done sort of almost in a 3-day session like that. Yeah. Was that your experience as well, Sam?
Yes. I actually found out about the programme whenever I was 16 from a secondary school teacher, Dan McCarthy. And he asked me to stay behind after class one day, and well, to be honest, Greg, I thought that I had actually did something wrong. Yes. But it turns out that Dan was a customer of Joe O'Donnell. And Joe ran a butcher shop in the town, and Joe had a very severe stammer. Joe joined the programme in 98, I think it was.
99.
Sorry.
99, I think.
1999. So Dan seen the Joe before the programme and the Joe after. So Dan got in touch with my parents. I hadn't a clue. So I asked for their okay to speak to myself about it. So he kept me back after class and explained everything to me. So I went home, spoke to my parents. We got in touch with Joe. They had an open evening here in a hotel in the town shortly after. So I went along to that and I signed up. I joined in May 2001 in the Ashland Hotel in Dublin. And ever since I have not looked back. Now, it's important to state that this isn't a cure. This is not a cure. This gives you the tools and teaches you new breathing ways on how to overcome.
But we're three of us sitting here having, a perfectly, I don't use the word normal, but you know what I mean. How else do you describe it?
Yes.
Without the Maguire program, this simply wouldn't be happening.
Not
Absolutely
a chance.
not.
So I mean, it is
not a
it's
chance.
pretty significant, isn't it?
The change in such a short space of time, as Shannon says, you join the program on the Wednesday evening. properly kicks in the Thursday morning. And by the Saturday afternoon, when you're going home, or the Saturday evening, you really are a changed person.
So do you think the greatest challenge really is getting the information out there, that people know this is here? Shannon, I have some contacts here. Is there spaces available, or like you mentioned Joe, I have his number here, and there's an email address, www.stammering.ie, or the email address is joe@maguireprogram.com. Shannon, can people make contact and try and enroll their young people in this? Is that how it works?
Yeah, of course. And we have a website as well. It's just called maguireprogram.com. So if you Google that, you can click in. The Maguire program is worldwide, and you can click into the Irish section. You can read a bit about different members, and there's also contact information there for Joe. And I'm actually instructing my very first course for the Maguire program next month. It's on from the 21st to the 24th of February down in the Salt Hill Hotel in Galway. So if you're listening out there and maybe you have a stutter, or maybe friend, family member who has a stutter, please get in touch with us. Joe's information is there, so make contact. You don't have to sit there and suffer in silence. There is help out there.
Sam, and as I say, it's not a silver bullet. It requires work, and it's not a cure-all.
No.
But there is something there that has been proven to help, and that's significant.
I think the key to the success of this program is the after support. You've got coaches like myself and Shannon. We're on a phone list, and we're there to help everyone. I'd say you've got your Irish phone list, and you've also got your international phone list. So it's, as Shannon said, it is a worldwide thing.
Wow.
We're there. Whenever you join up, you're given your own coach. Every student's got their own coach, and that coach is their new best friend.
Okay, well, Sam, I beg your pardon, Sam, I didn't mean to cut across you, but we're right out of time.
No problem.
Sam Anderson from Rathmullen, it's been wonderful speaking to you, and Shannon McEwen from Letterkenny, a primary coach now as well on the Maguire programme. Both of you, thank you very much indeed, and we're already getting calls in about the contact details and all, which we will give to anyone that rings us, and we'll also post them on our social media. Both of you, thank you very much. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 9. Hopefully things back to a bit of normality.